The millionaire CEO took his twins on a blind date and pretended to be broke. Everything changed when she offered to pay the bill. "You brought your kids to a date?" the hostess whispered, raising an eyebrow as Westwood adjusted the wriggling twins in his arms. "Yep," he replied calmly, balancing a diaper bag on one shoulder. "It's not a date." "Not really." The woman looked skeptical but gestured toward a window table. "You're in luck. Only one reservation with children tonight. Table 5. Graham nodded, his heartbeat louder than any corporate negotiation. In faded jeans and a plain shirt, he looked nothing like the billionaire CEO plastered across Forbes magazine. Tonight, his tailored suits and chauffeur were replaced with a borrowed 2009 Honda Civic and 2 crooked ponytails held by mismatched hairbands. He settled the girls into their booster seats. Emma grabbed the salt shaker. Ella clutched her stuffed bunny and scanned the room curiously. He watched the door, already knowing the truth. The woman he was supposed to meet had bailed. "Sorry, can't date a broke dad of 2, her last message had read. He was about to gather the girls when the door opened. A woman stepped inside, a tote bag on her shoulder, a paperback in hand. She scanned the room. Then her eyes landed on him. She smiled nervously and walked over. "Hi, I'm Sadie," she said, brushing a golden strand of hair behind her ear. "Sorry I'm late. Bus was slow." Graham blinked. She wasn't leaving? She sat across from him, placing her phone aside without checking it. "Window table, kids. Pretty sure I found the right one." He opened his mouth to explain, but something in her eyes stopped him. Sincerity, awkwardness, warmth, and a familiar kind of weariness. "No problem," he said softly. "We just got here." The twins stared at her. Sadie smiled. Emma squinted. "Do you like cats?" "More than I like most people," Sadie joked. Ella handed her a crayon. "Draw one." Sadie picked up a napkin and began sketching. Minutes later the girls were giggling at her lopsided kitten. Graham watched in disbelief. This wasn't forced. This was easy. Dinner arrived in a storm of chaos. Spaghetti splatters, spilled juice, napkins sacrificed. Sadie didn't flinch. She wiped Emma's chin, told a story about slipping face first into a birthday cake, making the girls howl with laughter. Graham felt something warm unfurl in his chest. It had been so long. She didn't ask about his job, his money, his fame. She asked Ella her favorite animal. She listened to Emma's story about a magic rock. She gave Graham a genuine smile, not flirtatious, not calculated, just real. Then the server placed the check on the table. Graham froze. He wasn't sure he even had a wallet in these borrowed jeans. Sadie saw it. She didn't ask questions. She didn't hesitate. She simply slid her card into the check holder. "It's okay," she said gently. "I've had worse dinner dates. You didn't have to." "I know," she said. "But you looked like you needed someone to be kind." It wasn't the money that stunned him. It was the way she saw him, not as the billionaire CEO, not as a headline, but as a father juggling chaos, doing his best. He looked at her differently after that. She wasn't dressed to impress. Her blouse was simple, nails unpolished, hair tucked behind her ear. She was present. Human. Kind. Hours passed. The restaurant emptied, but their table stayed warm with laughter and crayons. She told stories about growing up poor, reading books by candlelight when the power went out, how those nights made her want to become a librarian. Graham listened, moved by the gratitude in her voice. She never once asked about his wealth. And for the first time in years, he felt seen. When dinner ended, he offered her a ride. She smiled softly. "I'll walk. Helps me clear my head." She kissed Ella's forehead. "Thanks for the drawing, artist." "Come draw again," Emma called. "Maybe," Sadie said and walked into the night. Later in his garage, a napkin drawing fluttered from the dashboard, a cat with too many whiskers and Sadie plus Ella written in shaky letters. He folded it carefully and placed it in his glove box. For the first time in years, hope didn't feel dangerous. 4 days passed. 4 days of replaying the dinner in his mind. All he had was one clue. I work at the library near Pine Street. The one with the red doors. On Saturday, he packed the girls into the car. Just a casual visit, he told himself. Inside the library, the smell of old books wrapped around them. A group of children sat gathered around a woman reading aloud. Sadi. The twins raced toward her. She looked up, startled, eyes widening when she saw him. "You found me," she said when she called for a break. "I remembered what you said about the red doors." Ella handed Sadi a folded drawing. Sadi accepted it with a soft smile, then looked at him. "You weren't the man I was supposed to meet that night." "No," he admitted. "Then why did you stay?" He inhaled. "Because someone finally saw me. Not the CEO. Not the billionaire. Just a dad trying to keep it together. A man who misses his wife. Someone who needed a night that wasn't a transaction." Sadi's expression softened, but her eyes didn't leave his. "I didn't lie," he said. "I just didn't correct you. For once, someone wasn't judging me through money." He stepped closer. "My name is Graham Westwood." Her breath caught. He continued, voice low. "I own too many suits and a house too big for 3 people. But that night, none of it mattered. Because of you." "What now?" she whispered. "I don't know. But you deserved the truth." She looked down at the drawing in her hands. "What I saw that night was real," she said. "But I need time. Your world is complicated. Take all the time you need. Not goodbye. Just, not yet." Their meetings became small, quiet moments, library visits, afternoons in the park, story time under the shade of a tree. Slowly, gently, something grew. Then one day, a note showed up in her mailbox. "Dear Miss Sadi, come eat dinner with us. We made drawings and cookies. Love, Ella and Emma. And Daddy too." Sadi couldn't say no. Graham brought her to his mother's old cottage, the place he escaped to when he needed to be himself. The living room was covered in the girls' art. Sadi laughed. "You weren't kidding. Dinner was simple, comforting, real." Afterward, while tying Ella's shoe, Sadi brushed a hairpin into place. Ella beamed. Graham watched from the doorway, breath catching. He had never seen anyone make his daughters feel safe that quickly. "You're different here," Sadi said later. "I'm myself. You don't have to prove anything. Not to them. Not to me. That's what scares me," he whispered. "That it's real. Then don't run from it." It felt like the first honest invitation his heart had received in years. Then everything shattered. A grainy photo appeared online, Sadi holding hands with the twins outside the library. Who is this mystery woman with the Westwood twins? Within hours, her name was trending. Paparazzi swarmed her home. Reporters shouted questions. Her peaceful life was ripped apart. The next morning, she was called into the director's office. One of the library's top donors threatened to pull funding if she wasn't removed. "I didn't do anything wrong," she whispered. "I know," the director said. "But they care about appearances." She lost her job. She lost her privacy. She lost her peace. And she hadn't asked for any of it. Graham tried calling. She didn't answer. Then reporters showed up outside her building. And then, a hush swept over the crowd. Graham Westwood appeared at the base of her steps, ignoring the cameras, looking up at her door. "I can't change the world, Sadi," he called out. "But I can stand between you and it. I can take the cameras. The noise. Just say the word." She stood behind the door, tears in her eyes. "You have to protect your daughters," she whispered through the wood. "They're already in it," he replied, voice breaking. "They ask about you every night. They miss you. And so do I." Silence. "I'm sorry," she finally said. "But I need you to go." He nodded, heart heavy, and walked away. Sadie slid to the floor, back against the door, the twins' drawing taped above her head. "We miss you, Miss Sadie," it said. For 3 days, she touched it every time she walked out. Her heart broke a little more each time. The media storm had calmed, but the damage remained. She told herself it was better this way. Distance, silence, no attachments. But every night she dreamed of small hands in hers and giggles over picture books. She missed the messy dinners, the chaotic drawings, the warmth that had once filled the small house on the edge of town. She missed them. At Graham's home, silence settled in, thick and hollow. The girls noticed it more than he expected. They didn't understand public scrutiny or donors pulling support. All they knew was that Sadi had vanished. On the third night, Emma climbed into his lap before bedtime, her eyes glossy. "Is Miss Sadi gone forever?" Graham brushed a tear from her cheek. "No, sweetheart. She just needs a little time." Emma clutched his shirt. "Did we do something wrong?" Graham's chest tightened. "Not at all. She loves you so much." "Then why didn't she come back?" Emma whispered. He had no answer. The next morning, he found both girls at the kitchen table, surrounded by crayons. When they finished, Ella held up a drawing of 3 stick figures labeled Us, with hearts floating around them. Above it were the words, "We bring our hearts." Graham stared at it for a long moment. Then he stood. "We're going to see her." Ella's eyes lit up. Emma clapped. No cameras followed them this time. He took side streets, parked 2 blocks away, and carried the girls to avoid the lingering press. When they reached her door, the old drawing was still there, fluttering gently in the breeze. He knocked. No response. He knocked again, softer. Still nothing. "Are you ready?" he asked. Ella nodded, taping their new drawing beneath the old one. Then both girls stood before the door, arms stretched wide, waiting for a hug they weren't sure they'd receive. Inside, Sadi sat on the floor surrounded by books she was reorganizing to keep her mind busy. When she heard the knock, she froze. Then she heard it, small giggles, the rustle of paper, the unmistakable sound of love waiting on her doorstep. She opened the door slowly. Ella and Emma stood there with arms open and eyes bright. No press, no noise, just hope. "Hi," Ella whispered. Sadi fell to her knees, tears streaming as the girls ran into her arms. "I missed you," she choked out. So much." Graham stood quietly behind them. When Sadi finally looked up, he said softly, "I didn't come with headlines. I didn't come with promises. I just came with my heart, and theirs." "Why did you really come?" she asked. He exhaled. "Because I can live without fame, without money, without the noise. But not without this. Not without you." The girls squeezed Sadi tighter. "I thought I had to protect you from all of it," she whispered. "You were trying to protect us by leaving," he said gently. "But that's not protection. That's pain." She stepped aside, opening the door wider. "Then come in." He entered, the girls still wrapped around her legs. No reporters, no flashing lights, just 4 hearts in a doorway. "I don't need anything else," he whispered. "Me neither," she replied. And this time, no one let go. Life didn't return to what it had been. It became something better, quieter, more honest. Graham and Sadi began again, not in secret, not with fanfare, but with intention. There were no staged photos, no grand gestures, just park walks, story times, and grocery trips where Ella pushed the cart while Emma rode inside. Sadi stayed cautious, but she stayed. And Graham honored her pace. One evening he asked gently, "If you could do anything in the world, what would it be?" Sadi smiled. "Start a reading program for kids who don't have books. For the ones who wait in libraries because they don't want to go home." "Then let's build it," he said. They called it Story Nest, a free mobile reading program for shelters, community centers, and underserved schools. Sadi ran it with passion. Graham funded it quietly. Reporters began highlighting the program instead of her. At home, life was beautifully ordinary. Sadi stayed for dinner more often, then overnight when the girls asked. She read bedtime stories, taught them how to draw emotions, how to write tiny picture books. Graham often watched from the hallway, heart swelling. One evening after reading a story about a lost bear, Emma blinked sleepily. "Miss Sadi," she whispered. "Yes, sweetheart. Can I call you Mama Sadi?" The room froze. Sadi dropped to her knees, tears filling her eyes. "If that's what you want," she whispered, "then yes. Of course you can." The girls curled closer. Graham sat beside her, took her hand, and said nothing. He didn't need to. Later that night, on the porch beneath old wind chimes, Sadi whispered, "I never wanted to replace anyone." "You didn't," he said. "You became something entirely your own. I didn't think I had enough to give. You gave us a safe place," he said softly. "You gave me a reason to believe again." She leaned against him. "I guess this, us, just happened." "No," Graham replied. "We chose this. Every small moment, every quiet choice. We made this." A family wasn't forming. It was already whole. 1 year later, everything was beautifully simple. Sadi still lived above the bookstore on Pine Street. She returned to the library out of love. Children ran into her arms. Her name appeared in gentle stories about Story Nest. No one called her a billionaire's fiancée anymore. She was just Sadi. And that was enough. Graham never asked her to move into his estate. He knew she needed roots, not marble floors. They spent most days at the cottage, a place of crayons, warmth, and wind chimes. One spring afternoon, during a small family picnic, the girls ran inside giggling. They returned with a tiny box wrapped in napkins. "For you," Emma announced. Inside was a ring made of soft rope and colorful beads, uneven and precious. "We made it," Ella said proudly. "It's your special ring." Graham knelt beside her, voice trembling. "I used to believe I'd only be loved for what I had. But then came a wrong table, 2 little girls, and a woman who looked past all of it and saw me." He took her hand. "I'm not asking for headlines. Not for a grand ceremony. Just this. Be you, with us, with them. Be the heart of this home." He paused. "Sadi Quinn. Will you marry me?" Sadi laughed through her tears. She slipped on the homemade ring. "We've been a family for a while now," she whispered. "You're just catching up." The girls squealed, hugging them both. No cameras. No breaking news. Just sunlight, wind, and 2 children who had unknowingly crafted the most unexpected love story. That evening, as the sky turned gold, they sat on the porch swing, wrapped in each other's arms. "You weren't the wrong woman," Graham murmured. "Just the right one at a table no one expected." Sadi smiled. "And you were never the billionaire. You were the dad with kind eyes and spaghetti on his shirt." Love hadn't come at the perfect time. It arrived softly, sat at the wrong table, and turned their world right. Graham tried to guard his heart behind wealth. Sadi feared her small world couldn't hold something as big as love. But in the end, it wasn't the mansion or the money. It was bedtime stories, crayon hearts, and a woman who chose to see the man, not the name. Thank you for being part of this soul-stirring journey of love, healing, and hope. If this story touched you, if it reminded you that home is where the heart is, not the headlines, please subscribe to Soul Stirring Stories. We bring you real emotional tales that heal, inspire, and stay with you long after the screen fades. Until next time, stay kind, and never underestimate the power of a wrong table, 2 little hands, and a heart that chooses love.